Project Hail Mary was one of those books that I had had on my backlog for the longest time and told myself I'd get around to reading and then never got around to it. Until the trailer for this movie dropped, and then I was like, yeah, I have no reason to put this off any longer. I have to read it because I really want to watch this movie. The book was written by the same guy that wrote The Martian, which later got turned into his own film in 2015. Matt Damon starred in it. We covered that actually earlier this year, and I adore that movie so much. So I honestly had high expectations for Project Hail Mary because I was like, it can only go up from here. And it did. It met those expectations and blew them out of the water. In case you're not into spoilers, this video is going to have a ton of those, so make sure you save this video and come back to it after you've watched the movie, read the book. Either one, come back to it later. We'll have fun. So Project Hail Mary is about amnesiac Ryland Grace, who wakes up on a spaceship in the middle of space, and it quickly becomes apparent that it is his duty to save all of humanity. There used to be 3 astronauts, both of his crewmates died, so that leaves him all alone next to the star Tau Ceti until he meets Rocky, who's also out there trying to save his own species as well. Both of their planets have been afflicted by the single-cell organism astrophage, which is doing exactly what its name implies, eating the sun. Their suns are slowly decreasing in temperature, which means that a giant ice age is going to happen and it's going to destroy humanity and Iridian life, Rocky's species. So as Ryland Grace is getting his memories back, he and Rocky are trying to do the impossible, which is glean anything from the star Tau Ceti, which has somehow been infected by the astrophage but isn't decreasing in temperature. Simple enough, nothing too cataclysmic. So when I'd finished reading the book, I'd posted as much because I was very excited about the book as a whole. It was phenomenal, and I was uber ready to go watch the film, which was going to be out in a matter of days. And one of the comments I got from someone who got to see one of the early screenings was, both are phenomenal, but in their own way. After having watched it, I 1000% agree with that statement. The book is definitely more problem-solving, very lighthearted, and very factual. You're going through math and science nonstop, but in the film, it's far more silly. And a large part of that has to do with Grace as a whole, our main character. He's definitely awkward in the book, very much a dork, and I loved his character for it. However, he's almost nutty in the film, like a kind of kooky scientist, which I was not expecting. We spend a lot of time in his head because I think for the first third of the book, he's by himself in the spaceship because his 2 crewmates have passed on the way over to Tau Ceti. They were in comas for almost 4 years to get to Tau Ceti because it was safer that way. So you get to spend a lot of time in Grace's head and Ryland's head, unless we're in the middle of a flashback, which kind of shows what's going on Earth, what happened prior to him getting on the ship to get to Tau Ceti, and before he meets Rocky, which is kind of difficult to do in a movie, right? So you have him talking to a computer to do his logs instead of typing shit out. Or you have him like crashing out, as he does in the beginning of the film on the spaceship when he realizes he's in space. Yes, he does freak out when he wakes up for like a brief period of time before he just starts problem solving in the book. But in this, he's like out for a few days, man. He finds the vodka stash that was on the ship and he is out. Then again, I'm sure that would be absolutely normal for the average human being that has no recollection of who they are, where they are, how they are, any of that. So that's completely and totally valid. I will say that he is debatably not as smart in the movie as he is in the book. Again, he is a problem solver through and through, and he has gone through a bit of training and has helped a lot with Project Hail Mary as a whole before he was launched up into space. In this one, it just makes him seem a little bit too much like a normal guy versus the scientist that he is. Like, he was a former molecular biologist, now a science teacher, but that's a whole thing on its own. He was like the leading expert in astrophage because of how long he had been with Project Hail Mary before the spaceship got launched to Tau Ceti. So he is a pretty smart guy. He does have some training, some know-how as he's going through the ship and kind of poking around. He's like, oh, I don't know how I got this knowledge, but I know I have it in there. As he's doing things, it's coming back to him. But in this one, he just has no recollection whatsoever whatsoever, and just is so hesitant to learn until basically he's face to face with Rocky, who is probably the character that stayed closest to the book, both physically and mentally. I love that they kept his whale song language. I'm glad that they didn't try to change it to something else. I was really curious to see how they were going to do that, because literally in the book they have like music notes to notate whenever he's talking until Ryland learns the language, which was another thing. I thought subtitles would have worked fine here. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I did appreciate the audio translator. Ryland makes a program that translates Rocky's language to his language, and in the books he picks it up relatively quickly, like a matter of a couple of weeks, and so the two of them are just talking back and forth because Rocky's also very brilliant and learns his language, so the two are just talking without that program. However, in the movie they use the audio translator. Again, subtitles would have worked well, but I'm also fairly certain that the subtitles would have been easily lost to the special effects. Like, there's just so much going on that it would be hard to focus on one or the other, but you really want to focus on what's going on the screen, because like, oh my gosh, we're in space and like shit is just blowing up and happening, and or it's like so beautiful and just, oh, visually this movie was amazing. More on that in a second. But you also have to read what's going on with Rocky, because that's equally as important, right? So while I do think subtitles would have worked and we could have like listened to his whale song, because I think that it would have been cool to keep, I'm also cool with the audio translator. Especially whenever I learned that James Ortiz, he was one of the 6 different puppeteers, or what they called Rocketeers, Rocky's puppeteers, was the one that actually voiced him. He wasn't originally supposed to voice Rocky, but because he got like so connected to and understood Rocky so well, they were like, nope, you're our guy, you're gonna be Rocky. And the fact that Rocky was a puppet is just even hecking cooler, and it looked so much more organic than I think CGI would. The character interaction between like Rocky and Ryland Grace was just so phenomenal, and you can really see having a puppet there to interact with, you know, something moving and alive and just very much real in a sense, versus like a tennis ball on a stick. You could just see it. They were so hecking good. And yes, CGI was used on Rocky for some of the pieces, but anytime that they could use practical effects in this movie, they did practical effects in this movie. Like in the cockpit of the Hail Mary, they had like 7 or 8 different color systems. So like whenever Ryland Grace goes into the cockpit for the first time, it's all like in grayscale and very like dim and like match the whole what is going on. I don't really know what's going on. But then as the movie progresses, it lights up and has this very sunset feel and evolves as they're getting closer and closer to their goal. And it was just like so phenomenal that instead of using like literal green screens in the cockpit for all the different screens and buttons, they actually went in and took the time to be like, okay, these are the maps. This is what's going on over here. This is what's going on over there. That way it was easier for Ryan Gosling whenever he went into the cockpit and was supposed to pretend to be like very overwhelmed. Like, what is any of this stuff? I don't know what it is. He was actually overwhelmed by just so much data that was there. So it was really freaking cool that they took the time to make everything that they could. There is a scene, the having a moment scene. If you've watched this movie, you know damn well what I'm talking about, but I thought all of the red light when Ryan Gosling is literally floating in space and just having a moment, that it was all CGI after it was filmed kind of thing. But no, they managed to put like a whole bunch of red lights on like chicken wire and then put it behind like a moving water screen or whatnot to make it look more ethereal. And I was just like, holy freaking shit. My jaw literally hit the floor whenever I watched that scene, because between the special effects in that, the practical effects in that, and obviously there was CGI because it's on like the planet Adrian, but that's the practical effects, and then the music. I don't know how they somehow managed to repeatedly rotate out silly and then space inspirational and then emotional choir throughout the entirety of the film and make it work. But they did. It just hit so hard. They did a really good job of having 0 sound effects whenever they were in space. When they were inside the spaceship, they could have all the explosions and chaos that they wanted, right? But in space, there's no sound. But they did a really good job of filling the void with such an amazing soundtrack. I've been listening to it nonstop since I watched this film because it made me cry. It made me giggle. It was so freaking good. It was so amazing. And if this movie does not win all of the awards for like music, special effects, whatever, everything, when award season rolls around, I'm gonna be so freaking upset. As far as the other characters go, they did not have as much of a presence, obviously as much as Ryland Grace or Rocky do in the film, but they also had like less of a presence than they did in the book as well. Strat, she's the lady that's in charge of all of Project Hail Mary. She basically has immunity in all of the different countries to just do whatever the frick frack snick snack she needs to do to save humanity. I think that's valid, but she's crazy harsh and is going to do whatever she needs to do in the book to make sure that humanity is saved. You kind of respect the hell out of her because she is making all of these tough calls and just is kind of a jackass sometimes to get the shit done, but she does it. In the movie, she was a very extremely softened version of the book, and I would say the most changed character. Far more relatable. She even has like a karaoke scene, which the actress has an amazing voice, let me just say that right now, but Strat would never in the book. And I didn't mind it too much, but definitely the most changed out of all of the other side characters. His crewmates, we really don't get to see much of them at all. They have a far larger presence in the book. So if you haven't read the book or it's your first time watching this film, the scene where Ryland has to expel their corpses into space, I'm sitting there sobbing because I've read 400 plus pages of this character and his relationship with this crew. But if you haven't read the book, I don't think you'd have much of a connection to them. This happens earlier on in the film, so you don't really know much about them anyways, but if you're on like your second or third watch of this, I would still argue that you wouldn't be as connected to Yao or Ilyukina whenever this happens. I would say, like, if you want to learn more about the crew, the side characters, Strat, definitely go read the book. And then you have like Curtis, which was like, who the fuck is you? He didn't exist in the book, but he was the character that makes the important parts of Grace's inner monologue in the book when he's solo and doing his own thing and no one's really there to talk to him, external for the audience. I didn't have any issue with his existence. Honestly, he added a couple of like really fun and silly scenes to the movie and was like a top 10 anime betrayal at the end whenever he's like, you're gonna do fine, as they're dragging away Ryland Grace onto the ship and you're like, no, Curtis, help him. But he can't because the world is at stake. I thought the ships looked phenomenal. The Hail Mary had a lot of additions to the ship. It was very simple in the book, and in the movie it's much roomier. Like, for example, they have like an enrichment room is what I'm going to call it. So whenever Rocky has a difficult time understanding what Ryland is trying to say, because again, language barrier, he literally takes him to the enrichment room, which is basically wall after wall of just video screens so he can see what he's talking about. Like, oh, you don't know what fishing is? Let me show you what fishing is. That kind of deal. But the book design did make a quote unquote cameo, an appearance in one of the early prototypes whenever they were showing or explaining what Project Hail Mary is to Ryland Grace the first time. So I thought that was cool. I'm like, ooh, there it is. But yeah, it was a little bit different. The Blip A looked awesome, like so cool. Rocky's spaceship. And I really liked that Ryland's got to see the inside of the ship because he doesn't get to go in the book due to like atmospheric differences, right? It's if they go into either one of their atmospheres, then they're going to die, which is a huge part in the book. Also got changed a little bit in the movie. I think I liked that scene a little bit better in the book, the one where they're having to help each other after the Taumiba experiment whenever they go get the samples, but it was still good. It was still good. But I thought it was really cool that Ryland got to go and see the Blip A because I was like, oh man, Rocky got to see inside the Hail Mary. I wish that Ryland got to see inside the Blip A, so I'm very happy that he got that. There were just enough changes that it was very much like, yep, okay, we're following the book, we're following all the plot points, but this is going to be its own thing. But it hit all the same notes. It just seemed like it was a lot more streamlined. There were just two things in it that are both closely related that I wish they touched on in the movie that they didn't, and they both have to do with the medication that the crew has to take to be inside a coma to get to Tau Ceti. So obviously Ryland Grace gets put on the ship to go to Tau Ceti. It's a one-way trip. The crew unfortunately has to sacrifice their lives to save the rest of humanity. A noble cause, but not for everyone, as evidenced by the fact that Ryland literally had to be drugged and dragged onto the ship so he would go. But there was even more pressure on him in the book. The medication that they have to use to put them into the coma will unfortunately kill a lot of the people that they try to do that to. There's a gene that's specific to 1 in, I think, 7,000 people that will allow them to have the drug go through their system for 4 years, keep that in mind, without it killing them. So again, 1 in 7,000 people. And then within the 1 in 7,000 people, you need to have people that are qualified enough to man the spaceship, man all the science on the ship, save humanity. And then on top of that, you have to find people that are willing to sacrifice their lives for this, because again, it's a one-way trip. So the selection pool just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and it just so happens that Ryland has this gene, and Ryland is very smart, the lead astrophage scientist in this program. And as mentioned earlier, he's been there to help with a lot of the Project Hail Mary process to make sure that everything's up and running, that the scientists have what they need to go do this thing in space to save humanity. So whenever the info specialists get killed in the accident, he's like the main choice. He's like the lead choice. So in the movie, they're saying you have the most knowledge out of everyone on this planet. You're going to go, whether you like it or not. On top of that, in the book, there's just that added layer of, yeah, you are 1 in 7,000 people that will actually be able to handle the medication to get to Tau Ceti. So you have to go. You definitely have to go. We can't just send anyone. So that added layer of pressure on top of it, to me, extra important. And then the other change that wasn't added, that I think that they should have added, was the fact that, again, he did not want to go. So they had to drug him to put him on the ship to get him out into space several light years away, was because in a desperate attempt to keep himself off the ship, he's like, I'm gonna sabotage the project. I'm not gonna cooperate with it. I'm gonna ruin everything. They're like, yeah, we're gonna give you basically amnesia drugs. So we're going to administer a dose within the medication, like right before you wake up. That way you don't ruin anything. We don't think you're going to, but just to be extra safe, because all of humanity is on the line, you're gonna have the I forgot drugs in your system, which I think the two of those are very freaking important. And my theory as to why Ryland made it and then Yao and Ilyukina did not, and this is just a theory, okay? The author says that he knows exactly why Yao and Ilyukina died during the trip, and he says he isn't going to tell us, which I'm very upset about, but I understand, because he's thinking about writing a sequel. I'm like, damn it, just tell us why. Tell us why they didn't make it. But my theory is that he did have that extra medication in his system. It kind of offset or messed with the coma medicine in his system enough to like keep him alive. That's just a theory. It may not be correct, but I'm wondering if that's the reason why he made it. I wish we had answers, and I wish that was kind of added into the film, because I think it was just an extra layer of unfairness to Ryland that I think the audience could definitely like understand the character a little bit more. It added more character development to him, so I wish that was kind of added into it. But yeah, this movie, I did not expect to cry so much. I laughed a lot, I cried a lot, I was anxious a lot, I got angry on his behalf, on Rocky's behalf. It was just such a phenomenal film. It is definitely one of those movies that I recommend you go see on the big screen, just because the visual effects, the music, the everything was just so phenomenal. I want you to go and just be overwhelmed by how crazy beautiful it is, how silly it is, how funny it is, how gut-wrenching it is. And Ryan Gosling, it didn't matter if Ryland's character was different from the book. God, there were a few times where he had to cry, and I was just like, okay, all right, fuck, okay. He really brought home the performance, and you just couldn't help but cry as well. I just, go see this one in theaters. Seriously, go see this one in theaters. It's gonna be great even if you watch it after it goes to streaming, but you're gonna wish that you'd seen it on the big screen. So go watch the movie, go read the books, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.